And so welcome to the Ask the Expert series. Alex Mahgoub, one of the awesome members here on the team, is conducting the interview today with Summer Rose. So Alex, I'm going to put myself on mute and hand it over to you.
All right, amazing. Anyone else that's joining us on the Zoom call, if you can just put yourself on mute. And if you're tuning in on Facebook Live, welcome. Super excited to continue this Ask an Expert series. And since all of us are at home, bored, with a lot of time on our hands, we thought an amazing person to speak with today would be Summer Rose of Star Organizers. Hi, Summer, how are you?
Hi, Alex. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Summer has been helping people organize their closets and their lives for over a decade, all across the country, all across the world. So I'm really excited that you're able to join us today. How did you, get involved in organizing?
I used to do it for fun as a young girl. I just loved doing it so much that I did it for friends and family, and it was enjoyable. So people told me, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. So they said I could turn this into a business, and I did.
And you need to talk to my son.
You work with all different types of clients, right? I mean, you help people who, have a huge house, maybe an estate. You also work with couples. You work with people, who are downsizing, upsizing. So you've seen a lot in your day.
Yes. Whether it's a tiny Manhattan studio or whether it's a big house in California or wherever they are in the world, I can help them declutter and organize it all.
So out of curiosity, why should someone care about organizing, their apartment?
When your space is decluttered and organized, it helps you live more efficiently. It helps you have less stress. It helps you enjoy life more. The energy in your home is changed and you can find everything you need. You are on time more. There's so many great benefits, from physical benefits to it being able to invite people over and show off your home and just be comfortable having company over, to all of the mental benefits of not having clutter to distract you all around.
That's amazing. And over the past 7-8 weeks, I've been cleaning and organizing, and I can attest to that and testify to that I feel better. The home looks better. And I've gotten rid of some things. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. As we are in our homes looking at our clutter, how do you suggest someone get started?
I would say think about what room is bothering you the most and start there. And so start small, and sometimes it can be an overwhelming task to look at your entire apartment or your entire house and think, this is way too much for me. So pick a room to begin in, and then pick a part of that room, whether it's a corner of the room or a drawer or just one area.
That's good. Start small, focus. And do you have a particular method or system? I've heard of, I think her name's Marie Kondo. She has this spark of joy where she lets things go. Do you do that? Things and spark joy?
So Marie Kondo is great. I think she's a great author and her books were fantastic. I don't agree with everything she says, though, because she believes that there's one way to organize for everyone. And I strongly believe that each person should have everything organized in a way that works most efficiently for them and for their family and for their lives. So Marie says it should all be done this one way, and there's only one way, and she believes that her way is the best way. And I think that sometimes her way is really great and it can work for some people, and sometimes there are other options that work better for other people.
So, as we're going through our items, what types of questions should we be asking ourselves? So let's say I'm looking in a closet and there are some clothes that I don't wear that frequently, or, personally, I could show you some areas of my office where I just have stacks of papers. What should I be saying to myself to kind of get through and decide what's important to keep and what I should get rid of?
Sure. So you always want to ask yourself, is this thing adding value to my life? So you want to know, is this something you love? Is it something you're using? Is it something you're wearing? Is it something you're just holding on to out of fear, or something you're holding on to because you don't want to hurt someone else by getting rid of it, or because one day, maybe in the future, 10 years from now, somebody you know might want to use this thing? Is that why you're holding on to it? So you really want to know, is this something that has any function or value for you? Or do you find that it's really beautiful and it's a decorative item you want to keep in your home? And do you also have, like, how many of this item do you have? So if you have 5 of this same thing, then maybe you don't need 5 of them. Maybe you only need 1 of them, or maybe you need 2 of them, depending on what the item is.
What if I have 5 black suits? Should I get rid of some? I don't know about that. I use them. No, I'm kidding.
It depends. So you wear suits a lot, so that's not a problem to keep them in your closet because you wear them. But imagine somebody who is a trainer in a gym and he never wears a suit. He wears a suit to 1 wedding a year. And so that person may not need 5 suits in their closet. Now, if he goes to a lot of black tie events and he's wearing suits all the time, or he has a lot of business meetings, then that might be something he wants to keep in his closet. So it really depends. I don't think there's any hard and fast rule to say, oh, well, you should only own 1 suit or 5 suits or 20 suits. It really depends on what's your lifestyle like.
I'm going to interject for just 1 second, everybody. If you have questions to ask Summer throughout this session, please go ahead in the chat box and type in any questions you have. And then Summer, I have one quick question, taking advantage of co-host here. So what about like memory clothes? Sean and I have a number of clothes that we were like, oh, this reminds me of such a great time, you know, at such and such a date, but the odds of us ever wearing it again is like slim to zero.
Yeah, that's a great question because we all have those items. Maybe it was a t-shirt from an event we participated in, or maybe it has some special memory. It was a fancy outfit we wore to some significant event. So what's great is we are usually keeping these things because that item triggers a memory and we like that memory. And so that's why you want to keep the item. So one option that you can use instead is if you take a photo of that piece of clothing, or maybe you already have photos of you wearing that clothing from the event, and then you can keep the pictures and that will still trigger the memory just as much as keeping the actual clothes will.
That's a great,
that's great.
Yeah, take a photo. You don't need the actual item, you need the memory and a digital version of that memory. So that was a great example, I think, of a problem that you maybe encounter. Couples who have things and they're not sure, you know, one wants to get rid of and one wants to keep it. What are other, you know, common problems that you see when you walk into a home?
Sometimes when a couple has just moved in together, they have duplicates of a lot of things. So they'll have a lot of extra items in the kitchen that they may not use because they've combined households. So that's one thing that oftentimes, especially for newly married couples, will figure out how many of these coffee makers do you really need, or how many of these measuring cups do you need, and we'll figure out what they actually need to keep and we'll donate the rest.
Are there, you know, I have a lot of clients who have 1 kid, they're having a 2nd kid, they have lots of kid gear. I think these kids live much better than me with all their toys and gadgets and things. But, you know, as the kid gets older and they have all their baby toys and their toddler toys and they're growing up and they don't use those toys, is there a way that they can, what do you suggest to families like that?
So families who are holding on to toys so they can pass it down to the younger kids, then that's one reason. If they want to keep it, then that's fine. There's a use for it. I would say if there's a huge age gap between kids and maybe there's 10 years and you know this other kid's not going to use it for another 10 years, then you might not want to hold on to it because you have to think about what's the cost in having that extra space. So if you have to put it in storage and you're paying for a storage unit full of toys and clothes that are not going to be touched for 10 years until your kid grows into it, then what's the cost of maintaining that storage unit? And what's the cost of just rebuying the stuff should they want it in the future?
So that was going to be my next question. What do you say to a client like that who says, you know what, you're right. We don't need this for 10 years. I'm going to take it and put it in a storage locker somewhere. Do you recommend that? Are you supportive of that? How do you get them through that process?
So I think that storage units are great if you have one, if you have the necessity for it, in terms of you have a very small apartment and you have a lot of things that you know you will use and you do use, but you just don't have a place to store them inside your apartment, depending on how accessible the storage unit is and how expensive the items are, then I think storage is a great option. So for example, if you have a studio apartment in New York City and you're a skier and you go skiing a couple times a year and you own your own skis and you have a lot of ski gear, but there's just no way that you can fit that ski gear in your apartment without it taking up space in your living room or in a corner of your bedroom, and it just doesn't feel good for you to have that. And you can pay for a storage unit for $50 a month to keep your skis and then a bunch of other winter clothing or seasonal clothing or other items that you don't access as frequently that you don't need in your home, then maybe that $50 is a worthwhile investment, because you kind of can think of it as just adding on to your rent. So if you were to pay more to have a bigger apartment, then that's just what it would cost. Now, if you have a storage unit where you're just shoving all kinds of junk in there that you don't think you're ever going to access or open for many years or potentially ever, and you're just saving it just because, or because you spent a lot of money on it, so you don't want to get rid of it, or it was a gift, or it's sentimental, or what if one day you think you might want it again, then that's where a storage unit usually is oftentimes a waste of money. Now, if you have a storage unit for a particular amount of time, say you're in between apartments and you need to store things for 2 months between the closing of apartments because you can't quite move in yet, then that's a different story. That's storage, that's temporary storage, and that can be a valuable service.
Thank you for walking me through that. That's helpful. Now, let's say I'm going through this stuff. I've decided I am actually going to get rid of some stuff. But I don't want to just throw it out, okay? Do you have recommendations on places that I could sell or donate goods and items? I know this is a little bit of a tricky time.
Yeah.
A lot of places are closed, but because you do this every day, I'm curious if you can help direct us.
For example, like Alex's bookshelf behind him with all those books.
I need to get rid of these. Each one for $5, Amazon books, I'm coming for you.
Whoever wants Alex's books, just post in the chat.
Yes. Drop it into the DMs.
So that's a great question. There are a lot of ways that you can donate your items or potentially sell your items depending on what it is. Some great resources include Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and Nextdoor. You can list items and sell it to people in your neighborhood. Right now is a little bit tricky time with this environment. Some people aren't really comfortable doing that. So the better option may be to either hold on to it for a couple months if they choose to, or if they really want to get rid of it now and it's an item where they're not going to make that much money from it, then to just let it go. And for clothing, you can look at different consignment shops in whatever city you're in. There are a lot of places where you can sell on consignment. There are some stores that will actually buy the clothing outright, and they don't give you very much money for it, but it's something. And then your clothes will get reworn, so that's better for the environment. Or there are places you can donate, like churches, synagogues, homeless shelters, a lot of nonprofit organizations you can look up in your city, Goodwill, Salvation Army, places like that, Housing Works. They take all these sorts of household goods and clothing for donations as long as it's not too destroyed. And they have limitations on what they take. And right now, with today's climate, most of them are not accepting donations. However, in the future, they will be again.
Great, that's helpful. And for those that live in Brooklyn, I always do the Leave It on My Stoop giveaway. And as many books as I may have, I've gotten rid of like another 50 over the past 6 weeks. And just don't put it out if it's going to rain, and put a sign that says free stuff, no bed bugs, and people will take them. So
yeah, I love that option. I've had some clients in Brooklyn who told me that that was a thing they do, and I loved it so much. It was amazing. As we were decluttering their brownstone, every hour we would bring more things out there, and every time we would bring things out there, everything else would be gone. It blew my mind that everything was taken so quickly, but it felt so good because it was going to somebody who really wanted it.
It goes back to that old saying, one man's trash is another's treasure, So
Yes.
definitely the case with
So I had one question somewhere. So if you donate to like Salvation Army and churches and stuff, is there not a tax deduction with that? Or
There
how does that work?
There is. They will give you a tax form, and then you can work with your accountant to determine what dollar amount you want to assign to the goods that you donated and how much you can write off.
Okay, great.
I wanted maybe some tips and tricks that people can walk away from. I know you are the star organizer, so maybe you have an idea of how we could maybe fold some clothes or organize a drawer. Any feedback on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a lot of different ways that people can organize their clothes, and I always recommend that people do what works best for them. So I'll give them options. So say you're looking at a drawer of leggings or workout clothes. Some people like to fold them. Some people like all of their pants in one section and all of their tops in another. Some people like to have matching sets folded together, ready to go for their workouts. And personally, I like to roll my leggings just because that's what works best for my life. So I'll actually show you one of my legging drawers and how I put all of this in here. So let me flip the camera around.
Wow, this is great. Live feedback and showing.
So here's my drawer, and I have my workout leggings here, and I actually just have them all folded. So first I fold them, and then I just roll them up like this. And for me, it's really easy to see all of the leggings I have. So I can just choose whatever I want to wear, and it's easy to view them and it's easy to find them. And for some people, they don't care which pair of leggings they're pulling out. So maybe they just want to stack them all, and that's fine too. Some people will fold them kind of like this and have them stacked this way. So it just depends on what works best for your lifestyle and how you get dressed. So I always tell people they want to think about when you're organizing your closet or when you're organizing your drawers and your clothes, how do you think about getting dressed? Do you say, I want to wear pants and I don't care if they're jeans or leggings, but I want to wear black bottoms? And so then maybe you want to organize by color. But some people, they want to organize by style or comfort. So they'll put all of their jeans together, depending on whatever color they are. It doesn't matter. They're just looking for jeans. Or they'll put their leggings together and it doesn't matter the color. So it really depends on how you live your life. So if you're wearing whatever you want every day because you're an entrepreneur and you work from home, then maybe it matters less. If you're going into an office most days and you have to wear business appropriate clothes, then maybe you want to have a section of your closet that's work appropriate clothes.
So perfect. Thank you so much for that info. There's a great question in the group chat here about, having the opportunity to work with you. Do you only work with people in person, or is this kind of work something that you can do digitally over Zoom?
Yeah, absolutely.
FaceTime?
I can work with people over FaceTime. I actually just had a client last week who is stuck in California because she got stuck there due to this pandemic, and her apartment lease was up. So she needed me to go to her apartment in New York City that nobody had been in for over a month. And I FaceTimed her and we went through all of her clothing and we decided what was she going to keep, what was she going to get rid of, and what did she want me to ship to her out in California. So we did work via FaceTime to do that. And then I sent her everything and cleared everything else out of her apartment so that when her lease was up, it would be vacant. And I can do digital work as well. So that's something that I've been doing a lot of work virtually with people, is organizing their files on their computer, their photos, all of their documents, whether it's saved to Google Drive or iCloud or Dropbox or other company servers. We can go in and put in folders and subfolders, create consistent naming conventions, and find the best way to organize their digital life.
So that's exactly where I wanted to go next. So I'm so glad that you're on the ball there. We've been talking a lot about, tangible space, physical space where we live, but so much of our life is now online in that digital world. So I know personally, when I go into my Google Drive, I have documents and files and everything's just like a mishmash. What do you suggest, how someone can get better organized with that digital life that they have?
I would say it's all about creating folders and subfolders. You want to create a simple path that's going to explain to you easily how to find whatever document you're looking for. And so when people just save everything to their desktop or to their documents folder or to their downloads folder, it just becomes, like you said, a big mishmash of everything. And so another thing is creating consistent naming conventions. So you really want to think about this document when you're naming it. What are you going to think to look for later? So especially if you have a Mac, it's really easy to search for the document you're looking for. And so if you just type in that name, so say you had a spreadsheet of a bunch of numbers, maybe I think of that as my budget. Maybe somebody else would think of it as a money sheet. Maybe someone else would think of it as invoice or finances or income. And so there are so many different words that could mean the same thing. So you want to think, what's the word for you? So it doesn't matter what I would call it. It matters what you would call it because you're going to be the one looking for it later.
That's amazing feedback. I'm constantly looking for documents all the time, and if I had a very clear way of organizing the same documents, to your point, it'd be easier to follow. That's helpful. I'm curious, I know you work with a lot of folks who are trying to sell their place. What suggestions or recommendations do you have for someone who's not going to be living in the place, and after about 6 months, they're going to sell it? What do you recommend to them about organizing?
So I would say the best thing to do is declutter as much as you possibly can. So to get the highest value for your apartment, you want it to look larger. And one way to have it look larger is to have less stuff cluttering up the space and to have your closets organized and neat and having extra space so that it doesn't look like it's overflowing. You want your buyer to see that there's room to grow in this space. So I would say definitely decluttering. And also, if you're moving, there's no reason that you want to pay movers to move junk to your new place and clutter up your new place if it's stuff that you don't want to keep anymore or things that aren't adding any value to your life.
That's a great point.
And, because I know you work with a lot of, different moving professionals, do you have any recommendations for us in regards to the moving world?
Yeah, I think it's important to know what you're moving. And so I have professionals who are very high end, who are white glove service. They're amazing movers. I know that I can count on them to take extra care of all of my clients' fragile items, expensive artwork, etc. And then I have my lower, cheaper movers who I know they can get the job done. They're going to be very inexpensive. They may not be the best movers, but sometimes you don't need the best movers if you're just moving a bunch of boxes of clothing and books. If there's nothing fragile, then you really just need strong guys to do it for you so you don't have to lift a finger and kill your back. So it really depends on what you're moving.
So for everyone listening, Summer literally knows everyone. So if you're looking for any type of professional, except real estate broker, please reach out to Summer. She knows movers, literally everyone. Beyond being an amazing organizer, she's also a tremendous connector. And the people that she knows do amazing work. I want to see, yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. I want to see if there's any questions that we have in the chat maybe or on Facebook Live. Maybe Jared could take a look. I know he's wearing many.
Right. I have one question, Summer. Like and I had it in the chat, can you give us a little bit of idea of ballpark costs if I would say, can you organize a 600 square foot 1 bedroom or a 1,200 square foot 2 bed or a 2,000 square foot loft? And I know it all depends on how much stuff you got to do, but kind of what is it? Some numbers, if you will.
Sure. So I work hourly. So it really depends on how much stuff you have, because I've walked into small, maybe 700 square foot studios where they were cluttered floor to ceiling, and it took 10 times the amount of time that a 2-bedroom beautiful apartment that had triple the space can take. So it really depends on how much stuff you have and what your goals are. Papers always take the longest. So if you want me to sort and organize papers with you and be scanning them and digitizing and shredding and organizing it digitally for you, that's going to take a lot longer than if you just have a bunch of clothes that you want to go through, or maybe pots and pans or kitchen items. So it really depends on what's in the apartment and what's the goal.
Now, if
okay,
someone,
that's great. Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead, Alex. No, that's I didn't know that.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Alex. Go ahead.
No, you go. No, I'll go. So, Summer, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, or they were curious about having a conversation, or wanted more resources, where would you direct them?
They can visit my website, starorganizers.com, or they can email me at summer@starorganizers.com.
Beautiful. And as we wrap up here, if we don't have any more questions, can you share maybe your favorite organizing story, and then possibly the worst story, a horror story? One amazing story and one bad one.
One really fun trip I got to do. So I've traveled the world for my clients. I've been fortunate enough to have been flown to 20 different states and 6 different countries for my clients. So I've gotten to go on some really cool trips. I did a house in Hawaii. That was really fun. And I got to hang out and tour Oahu. And every night we would organize the closets and the bedrooms, and we were able to donate a lot and get a lot of stuff out of there. So that was a really great trip, and it really made a difference.
Hearing you talk about travel, I know you also help people travel, right? You organize their suitcases and...
Yeah, I've had a lot of parents ask me to pack their kids up for camp. So that's something that I'll do with them, make sure they have everything they need, or packing suitcases when people are going away on trips, helping them unpack, whether it's unpacking from a trip or unpacking into a new home. And for horror stories, I would say, I've been into a lot of places that look like horror stories, but they're not horror stories to me because they really excite me. Like, that's the most fun part of my job, is when I walk into a place that's a crazy hoarder's house with just garbage everywhere and junk and clutter and piles of clothing. It really makes me excited because I can see beyond that and I can see the transformation. And so I know that that's really going to change somebody's life after.
Amazing. So I'm going to invite you over really soon, Summer, so you could be excited by this mess I have here.
Can't wait.
Yes. Anything else before we go? Martin, do you have anything, or Summer, anything else you want to share before we wrap up? Want to be respectful of everyone's time.
Right. Well, I think it's been great, Summer. Thank you so much. And Alex, thank you so much for organizing this. And Alex is going to be doing this. I think it's going on every third Thursday of the month.
Second or third?
Second, yeah. Right. Second, yeah. You'll figure out that. We'll tell you what the schedule is. And Summer, this is great. I really like the idea of starting out with one room, especially with people with stay at home now. Just looking at stuff can feel so overwhelmed. I think it's a really good idea to start one place and work from there. And then Summer, I think we'll let you have the last word there too.
Yeah, I think it's really important, especially with so many people working from home right now, to make sure that your workspace is clear. You're going to be a more effective worker. You're going to be able to think more clearly and be more productive if your space is less cluttered. So I urge you to take this time now. We have a unique opportunity right now to stay at home and to get a lot of work done and to be productive in our homes and to declutter.
Amazing. Thank you, Summer. Everybody, I hope you're organizing right now. Thanks for tuning in. Summer, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Alex and Martin, for having me.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks, Summer. Bye.
Hey Siri, call Jared next.
We're no longer live, yeah?
We're no longer live. I'm going to stop the recording.
Good.
Hey, I can talk.
Yes, you can.